Guys, it has been 12 months since Zkira has been missing. No one actually knows what has happened to her. For you guys who haven't seen my part 1 of this video, let me give you a little recap. During the summer break in July, Zkira Kemp left Houston to go to Maryland with her 2 best friends. Around 2 a.m. on the 8th of July, she was then in an accident where she died and her 2 friends survived. But the mother, Jalunda, has been told conflicting stories about her daughter's death.
From the police to the medical examiner.
And the events leading up to it. As well as that, it seems like there was a different body in the car that wasn't secured. And there is audio recording of a man who lived at the residence of where the car accident was. And he said that a man showed up to mourn and said this.
My son got killed and his son got burned up. The other son went in the hospital. He went in critical condition, and the girl, I think she got hurt too, whatever like that. That's what I'm told to me.
So if it's not Zkira's body in the car, who is it? And the description and the location that this man at the residence described matches to Addison Jr., who was the father of Aiden, who's friends with Mike, and they were all staying at this location on the trip. So there's definitely something going on here, and you guys can help by liking this video and give it a comment, because it pushes it out in the algorithm so more people can see this case and what's going on. So let's get into the update. So recently, Jalunda's sister, Zkira's auntie, has spoken live on Jalunda's Facebook, sharing her side of the situation, describing what she's seen in the site pictures of the body that was supposed to be Zkira's. Before we get into that part, she also speaks about having her sister's back.
Interesting that when she first started going live and she was the one speaking, everybody was like, well, why isn't your family, why isn't your son? Because sometimes we step back and we allow that person to do what they need to do, but we're behind them, pushing them forward to get that word out. But one thing about it, my sister has never stood alone, and she will never stand alone in this. She has a family that loves her, that supports her, and that is going to fight side by side with her until we get the answers that is due us.
There's a lot of people on the internet, including YouTubers, that are trying to imply that Jalunda's some crazy lady who won't let go of her daughter's passing, when there's legitimate reasons to believe that she's still alive. And a lot of people have been saying because she doesn't have her family or her son speaking out, oh, she's crazy. That's the assumption that they're having. And just proves that her family has had her back and been with her by her side the whole time. Saying that, they did also acknowledge their mistakes.
Our military, I was always taught trust but verify. But when you're actually going through something, you're not thinking clearly, so therefore you miss a lot of opportunities that you shouldn't have if you were really in your right mind. At the time all of this began, we trusted what was being said, but we did not verify. So in doing so, we failed Zkira. And that is my deepest regret. You trust the police. You think they're out to find out the truth. We trusted, but we did not verify. So we did a lot of things wrong. I pray no one ever goes through what we went through. But at the same time, if you find yourself in a position that you're having to deal with the police, trust but verify. Don't let them tell you things. They told us that we couldn't view the body, but then afterwards they're saying, oh, you could have viewed, but you couldn't have viewed at the coroner's office. You would have had to wait it until the body was transported to a funeral home. Well, that was not told to us, and so therefore it was a lot that we didn't know. And after finding out, so much had already transpired that you can't go back and change it because of what was already done.
And which is understandable. It's really sad seeing these content creators, yet again, people not having empathy for the person in the situation. It's like you can just tell they have never lost anyone in their lives. Me, I haven't lost anyone in my life, but I can imagine the emotional state someone would be, and maybe not even imagine, I could never compare, but I could only imagine just the state of someone's mind when they lose a child, and how that would mentally affect them emotionally, and just making irrational decisions and bad choices because they're really just running off emotion. A lot of these people that are going through these situations, they're not logically thinking. When they find out things like this, it's just their pure emotions running wild, hurt, pain. People are gonna run off their emotions and believe what the police say. And here she's giving a really valuable lesson, is to, yes, trust, but verify the information that they give you to make sure it's true what they tell you. She then goes into how there's a lot of things that weren't answered.
Here, it was just really a lot of unanswered questions. Nobody could give us an exact location. Nobody could tell us what happened. So as people began to show up, we started making phone calls, just trying to find out where, what happened. And we could not find one person that could give us a straight answer.
And that's because I really believe during that time they were running games.
We spent most of the day calling, my husband, myself, other people that came, and we still weren't able to get the answers that we wanted and needed. Clock that we were actually contacted by the police, which I find so shocking. An accident that supposedly happened at 2:30 in the morning, but yet the police didn't reach out to us until after 5:30 at night. That's when I spoke with the police officer, Corporal Brooks, and my husband also talked to Corporal Brooks. And there was another officer, I believe it was Morales, I'm not really sure. That's when they told us that the accident happened. They couldn't verify that it was Zkira because of the condition of the body that was there. And asked the question, was she driving? We can't answer that. Well, was she in the back? We can't answer that. So basically you told me absolutely nothing. It was at that time that we found out that this car actually burned up and that the body was completely destroyed and they couldn't do a visual.
Then she gets into the photos, and it's similar to what Jolanda was saying in her live stream.
I don't know how many of you actually know that my sister and I traveled to Maryland to finally view these photos that they had. We went and we looked at those photos. It was just shocking to see. The coroner actually also showed us photos from accident scene. And so the photos from the accident scene, it left even more questions, because as I looked and I studied these photos, when I was prior military, I actually did a forensics course with the Army. And so I had very little knowledge, but enough. So, you know, she told us in the autopsy report that they had said that, you know, arms and limbs or legs and stuff were missing. But as I looked at these photos, I was like, hey, wait a minute, there's an arm right there. And then, oh, well, what I meant was this. And then when she said that there was no legs, I said, well, wait a minute, there's legs right there on the seat. So what are you talking about? Oh yeah, oh no, what I meant is I can see those as well in the pictures, but I never received them. And you got to question yourself, what do you mean you never received them? Where are they? And to this day, nobody can tell us where they are. At the condition of this body that they showed us, you couldn't tell anything.
Really good that she gave her point of view and the way she described it, because there have been some videos going around, some people saying that it could have been a possibility that the legs melted into the seat. It's like a archaeologist site sometimes when people are digging in the back of a car trying to get a body out. But here she is saying that she saw the legs. So that means, yes, there are legs missing and they don't know where it is, according to her. Then they talk about Zkira's shirt that she was wearing that night.
We did see a picture of what Zkira was wearing the last night she was known to be alive. And there was this tiniest bit of fabric on this thing. But what I found so amazing with that is this car was burned to the point where all the seats were gone, the metal was showing, blah, blah, blah. But this little piece of fabric made it. And this little piece of fabric was not sooted. This little piece of fabric was just as bright as when she put that shirt on. So you want to join in? So therefore, that's what left us with even more questions as to, wait a minute, is this truly Zkira? Because you can't explain to me how everything is burnt and there's a piece of fabric maybe that big that was left that was not burned, that the color was not charred, and so you question yourself, okay.
And that's a legitimate question. If it was meant to be such a bad fire, why is there a little bit of this piece of material this size, or according to her head size, why is it there? Why is it not burnt?
We know for a fact that whoever was in the back seat, if it was Zkira, she was in the back seat. But what I found so strange is in looking at these pictures is that this body was laying on the back seat. Now, anybody that's ever been in a car accident, you know, if you got on a seatbelt, yeah, it can stop you, this, that, and the third. But if you are actually laying, this body was laying on the back seat on its right side with the legs on the seat. And you can clearly see that in the pictures that we were shown. I don't know about y'all, but if you're in a car accident and you're laying down, you're going to get thrown off the seat. If you're in a car accident and you were sitting up, you're not going to have your legs on the seat. So there are still so many questions that we're still wanting answers to.
She definitely has a good point. Now, these photos are not released yet to the public. I do feel that maybe they would release it once they probably do get their hands on it. Maybe. I don't know if they would. Some people do that type of stuff when it comes to cases like this because it's like things are not making sense. What is this? And they have to do, it's sad they have to do that to get people to react and to get answers. It's really sad that that's how the world works these days. That makes you think, did someone just kill someone and put them in the back of this car? Then she goes into the dental records.
Question came when my sister Jolanda started asking about the identification. She wanted to see the x-rays, and that's when they told us, oh, well, we don't have that. And I'm actually dental, so when we went through this forensics course, we were taught how to take x-rays on bodies so that they can be compared with dental x-rays. No postmortem dental x-rays were ever taken, but you said you verified her identity through x-rays. Now, looking at this body and looking at what was supposed to be there, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what did you do? She said she sent a picture of the body and a picture of her panorex, which is a full mouth x-ray, to an odontologist. But you can't tell me that odontologist was able to see anything to do what I consider a positive identification, because me looking at the body itself, there's no way. Yeah, you saw teeth, but because of the other things that were interfering, there's no way you can look at those teeth and say with a shadow of a doubt that that was actually Zkira.
On top of that, on the autopsy, it doesn't mention about some other doctor taking this x-ray. It's only one person that signed off. The coroner also explained about the accident and how Michael and Wanda and where they were outside of the car, etc.
Coroner herself, as we were sitting in this room, she said that the car was on this side of the road and that they found two people that were supposedly in the car on the opposite side of the road. They had walked off a bit. Well, you claimed that you were unconscious. So your legs was broken. You had enough energy where you couldn't help anybody out because you collapsed, but you had enough energy to cross a 2-lane road and walk down the road a piece, and that's where they say they found you when first responders.
Okay, so let's get into the charges. Michael is actually wanted in Maryland. So I'm gonna blank out the address here, but it has his information here from what I already showed you guys. He actually has 2 attorneys defending him. It also says parties involved, the state of Maryland. On him on a couple of charges. That's 7 charges. Neglect, manslaughter, in vehicle, driving, attempting to drive, reckless driving, careless, etc. There's just so much. Not only that, guys, but there has been a lot of documents and things that have been filed. Criminal indictment, bench warrant issued. Apparently, you typically get that when there's a failure to appear in court. So the failure to comply with the court order or other similar reasons is authorized law enforcement to arrest the individual named in the warrant and bring them before the court. Notice of restriction information, motion to suppress, exclude evidence, dismiss. So basically, from the looks of it, they want evidence that is relevant to what he's being charged for, I'm assuming. And anything that has been legally obtained can only be in the court. So that's really interesting. Speedy trial, motion to produce transcript of grand jury testimony, demand for discovery and inspection, motion request to dismiss. Now let's look at that. Wow, he basically trying to get the request to have the case removed from court or thrown out. And yeah, there's a few other things here too, guys.
Found, I guess, laws different from state to state. I didn't know you could call and say, well, don't arrest me, I'll just come to court, and everybody's cool with that.
Even if they got a warrant.
And you know, if I was under the impression if you have a warrant for your arrest, if they stop you anywhere, you are supposed to be arrested. If you get pulled over on a traffic stop and they run your name, you're getting arrested. And I thought that was all the way across the board. Well, apparently that's not the case up there, because this warrant
ID and everything else
is for his arrest, and they're not arresting him. Somebody explain that to me, because I'm like, are you kidding me?
And then even with Michael being charged, I was called by the DA, who's supposed to be working for me, to tell me, oh, his 2 attorneys put in for what is it called, Lord?
I have no idea.
Whatever the thing is to go to court. Instead of coming in on a warrant, he wanted to set a court date to come in. And I'm like, so you telling me the attorneys know where he's at, and they're talking to you, and you're not telling them to turn him in and go get arrested? Y'all giving him more freedom than you gave me as a mother. Y'all told me I couldn't see my daughter. Y'all told me I couldn't identify my daughter. Y'all wait 5 months later to tell me, oh, you could decide a funeral home, but you wouldn't let me bring it to no funeral home but what you chose.
What was told to us was that, oh, we don't care about anything. We're just going to go after this one person that we think we can get a conviction on. Your conviction or not, we want truth. We want answers. And that's not happening. We're not getting any answers. In fact, you're leaving us with more questions, because now it's like, okay, can somebody explain to me why y'all can't arrest him? Because I want to see a mugshot.
Now, if you watched my previous video, you guys know that apparently there was no 911 call. Well, apparently now there was.
The question we had always asked was about 911. We were always told there was no 911 call. And now they're saying, well, that's what was our question. If there was no 911 call, how did somebody come on the scene? What happened? But that's another thing. They are still, saying, oh, that now there was a 911 call. When from the beginning you kept telling us there wasn't.
And the fact that Michael's also being charged with some drugs and stuff in his system, what was in Michael's system should have been in Zkira's system. Y'all all saw the autopsy and it said nothing was in her system. A little bit of alcohol that they don't know, because your body make alcohol, if it was from her intaking it or her body making it. We all know that's a lie. And I never once said my daughter don't drink and smoke. I knew who my daughter was.
Gives her a better reason to think that wasn't Zkira in the car, because normally Zkira would be smoking weed with Michael. And I believe that would have been the drugs that was in his system in Maryland, unless it was something else. But we can all assume that it was weed. And from another interview that I did, which you guys will see in another video coming up soon, he did used to smoke some weed, and that was it. He apparently, to this person, he wasn't on anything else. Then Jolanta's sister talks about a conversation that she was having with Wanda's auntie, and her auntie actually said something that really interesting, and we also have a screenshot to prove it, but check it out.
I remember when we were dealing with the ME concerning this, my question was, okay, was her legs broken in the crash, or was her legs, did everything that happened because of the fire? And oh, we can't tell. But here's an interesting story that no one knows. I actually had received a text message from the female's aunt, and we were actually conversing back and forth in Facebook Messenger. And so she was like, y'all are trying to blame my niece, and you're doing this, you're doing that. No, that's not what we're doing. We're trying to get the truth as to what happened. And as the conversation goes on, she tells me, and this is before any reports, this, that, and the other, she tells me that, well, what happened was it was a bad car accident. Her legs were broken really bad, and she was almost dead anyway. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said, well, I find that amazing, because I asked the coroner these questions and she couldn't tell me anything. How do you know? And that's where the conversation stopped. She had nothing else she wanted to say. The person that was in this car had to tell you something. Where are you getting your information from?
I don't have the whole thing, but it does say, I don't care about none of that. It says it was an accident. What else are y'all looking for out of that? I just need you to read that autopsy report one more time, honey, because it said little carbon monoxide was found in her system. Her limbs were already broke. She already was on the verge of passing away. I think she was meant to go if. This makes me think that has seen the autopsy. So I don't know if this was passed around on social media at the time. We don't even know the date of this message. I'm assuming she saw this part of the report when it was on the NC Beats website when he spoke about it. So I can only assume that the auntie saw it then, and that's why she knows about the legs. But as you can see, it has nothing to do with saying the legs were broken. It says that the legs were dramatically amputated. She goes, well, since you don't care, I guess this conversation is vain. You want to protect your niece, and I want the truth and justice for mine. I do have one question though. I asked me if she could tell if the legs were amputated in the crash or the fire, and she couldn't say with a degree of certainty. How do you know? She goes, nobody said I didn't care. It was a tragic accident, point blank. I do feel that her saying broke was a shorter way of saying amputated, but who knows? Like, why would you say broke and not amputated? So yes, that is interesting. But the word broke is usually a slang term. Like, instead of saying I have a broken car, they'd be like, oh, my car broke. Or instead of saying amputated, they'd be like, you know what I mean? Kind of disrespectful to say that instead of using the proper word. But anyway, it has officially been, I believe, 12 months. And Yolanda still has not have the final police report. And there's so many things that she can't do without that final police report. Which I find very interesting considering that they're able to press all these charges, which means they must have seen this final police report. How were they able to see all this stuff and make these charges? You can check her out on Facebook and her GoFundMe. Links will be in the description below. I do feel that she's going to need like a really, really good lawyer to help her with this whole situation, because there's just so many things that is not adding up. That's what I have so far. I'm going to remake the video that I first made on Zkira with all the new details that we have now. I have an interview with one of Zkira's friends. I also have an interview with Yolanda, and there was more holes that she filled in for me because I had questions that I couldn't get answered when I first made my video. So we're going to put it all together and hopefully have a more better understanding, and also the updates of other things that were happening once all the videos came out, because there were a lot of things happening behind the scenes regarding the car and stuff, and I definitely want to put that all together. It is going to take some time, so encourage me, always give me comments, likes, and you know, encourage me to make videos like this, because I'm going to be honest with you, it is very difficult emotionally to make videos like this. It is not easy. It's very emotionally draining. So your encouragement means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. So many questions that are not answered. The family are being so sus by being quiet. Then you got Aiden throwing fallacies and gaslighting and all that. And Michael doesn't have a good past either, which we'll get into once I make this bigger video. But anyway, while you guys here, you can check out the first video I did on this situation. That will be up there. Or you can check out Aiden and him gaslighting. That will also be there. And I'll see you guys in one of those videos.